Hey everyone, U.S.E. 2075, A Future Unwritten. Let's start with Chapter 5. Chapter 5, Line Them Up, Knock Them Down. In 2035, a 19-year-old young man named Donovan, who will one day be the father of a lovely little girl named Melrose, sits in a park in Ormstown, Quebec, watching a video on his cell phone. The town is in a high school alma mater, and though it's been years since he graduated, he still hasn't found his way. He's contemplating what the hell he's going to do with his life. The one thing he does feel passionate about is how much, right now, this place sucks. There's no opportunity. It's like he's stuck in a loop. On his phone, a reporter stands in front of the United Nations building in New York City as a breaking news alert flashes across the screen. Outside the hallowed United Nations headquarters, its once iconic blue flag now missing from the flagpole. After nearly a century, the United Nations is officially no more, she says. With no structure or no new global entity stepping up to replace it, the world enters a new era of uncertainty. Donovan nods his head, trying to wrap his mind around how he feels about it all. His entire life, the UN has just been there, always present, always some big conference happening, always showcasing world leaders arguing about world affairs, but without much action following suit. And now what comes next? He scrolls through the comments, watching the chaos unfold in real time. Some people blame the U.S.E. for letting it collapse. Others cheer, saying globalism has been a failed experiment from the start. But the most unsettling posts come from analysts warning about what comes next. One thing is certain, the reporter continues. If a new global body emerges, it will not be housed in the United States. But as of now, no country has stepped forward to fill the gap. Donovan leans back against the bench and says, I need to make a change, and lets out a slow breath. He's having an existential crisis. If the world isn't the way it used to, what's going to stop things from spiraling to places unknown? Borders are closing, alliances are shifting, and isolationist policies are spreading like wildfire. He shuts off his phone, but the questions still buzz around in his head. He thinks to himself, whatever happens next, I need to take care of me, get mine, and be ready to be on the winning side, whoever and whatever that is. At the same time, right across the street at a local pub called Le Pub, fittingly named, nestled as the hot spot in a bilingual community like Ormstown. Florence, a local girl who loves to party and never says no to free drinks, is blowing off steam after her shift waitressing at the local Greasy Spoon. Pays the bills, and she can now eat all the poutine she wants for free, though she doesn't really care for curd cheese or fries drenched in gravy. But still, it's a steady income and plenty of free meals, something not many people in the neighborhood can afford to pass up, especially since the economy's been in the dumps for years. The local Canadian economy, especially in this border region, has deteriorated year over year during the last decade. Florence, Flo to her friends, will one day be the grandmother of a fine young man named Titus, but having kids is the last thing on her mind right now. She and her friends leap on the bar, screaming, shots, shots, shots! A couple of local boys smile, and the rest of the bar cheers, and everyone's having a good time. Florence and her gal pal know one thing for sure. A night at the pub is usually very cheap. She never pays for anything. There always seems to be someone willing to keep her glass full and flowing. The same news report Donovan was watching is playing on the corner television, mounted near the pool table in the 5 video poker machines, all of which are occupied by what appears to be 5 addicted regulars, pressing the spin button over and over as if it was in a trance. The bartender, somewhat busy, but not especially, is trying to catch what the news is all about. A drunk patron notices the broadcast and shouts, "Turn that garbage off! Who cares? They're all a bunch of blowhards and self-serving cowards." Donovan hears all the hooting and hollering coming from the bar and considers going over to have a good time for once, but decides he'll forget it. He'll probably just get in trouble and maybe even get someone pregnant with his luck. At least that's the excuse he tells himself for not going. We now shift to Chapter 6. It's back at the high school debate, a borderline crisis. Melrose continues her argument back at the podium in the auditorium. In the year 2035, the previous 10 years saw a monumental shift in the way the USA and Canada had evolved from previous decades. It had already been 10 years since the initial idea of becoming the 51st state had started. It also marked a change in the way Canada moved forward. It's important to explain that at this point in time, the world had increasingly feared that a potential World War III could actually happen one day. Even the doomsday clock had struck 1 second to midnight, with countless historians and scholars contending that this was our final warning, due to the world's failure to exist in peace, cohesion, and harmony. Our survival demanded a system that wasn't based on handouts. It required strength and accountability and a new global order built on shared responsibility. This next free world wasn't just a vision, it was a necessity. Conflicts weren't only built off bombs, they were built off money. And those with wealth turned it into power. Tariffs and trade wars could be just as painful as a military war. It just looked different. People suffered in different ways, but they still suffered. Countries weren't the only superpowers. Global companies often wielded just as much influence. They pushed their agendas to shape policy and direct the course our planet would take. There used to be rich and poor countries, and it was easier to identify who had wealth and who didn't. But it kept evolving. It became more covert with every country. Even in the poor countries, ultra-wealthy agendas existed, and power was concentrated in the hands of a select few. Their influence blurred borders and even erased the significance of a country's boundaries. For some, countries became unimportant or inconsequential, as long as the masses kept feeding the global wealthy community. The danger in that model was the distribution of wealth kept becoming more unbalanced, and it continued moving in the wrong direction. Breaking points were happening everywhere. Regional conflicts were surfacing. A form of tribalism had grown, with strategic regional and resources alignments taking place, and new pressures were being placed on countries that didn't play by the rules or the burgeoning New World Order. The premise of sitting on the sidelines and watching was fleeting. There were no more Switzerlands. You had to pick sides, or you were left behind, or even worse, gobbled up. Resource acquisition became paramount to maintain the quality of life that people and nations were accustomed to. The Cold War annexation machines began feeding off the fruits of scattered around the world, piece by piece and state by state, with no corner left untouched. This was the world. This was the reality we lived in. For those who say, well, if the U.S.E. didn't come to light, we would have been better off. This was the world in 2034-35. Get real. The world wasn't a great place. Something drastic had to happen, or we might not even be here today. Doomsday was real back then, and a lot more dangerous people had the possibility of pushing that big button. The crowd is silent now, as the charismatic Melrose sets everyone up to buy what she's selling. She pauses, overlooking the audience. The U.S.E. saved humanity from where it was heading. It was heading into oblivion. She was right, and her words resonated with a large portion of the audience. 2035 was a long time ago for anyone in 2075. History always gets a little muddled from when the actual truth was. But one thing was certain. Technological advancements were accelerating at an unprecedented pace. AI, artificial intelligence, acted both as a driving force for some and the Achilles heels for others. Universal translators had quickly become commonplace, eliminating language barriers almost entirely, as long as you had one. People could speak in their native tongues, and the earpiece microphone technology would instantly translate their words, ensuring seamless communication. This single innovation profoundly transformed human interaction across the globe. The rules of tools of communication were evolving rapidly, reshaping the very fabric of our global society. While technology made worldwide connection easier, the USA still held significant influence over those interactions and how it was structured. A clear example was language. English had been established as the dominant global language, and there was no debate about it. A hierarchical system emerged, relegating other languages to secondary status. This shift wasn't about valuing diversity, it was about promoting conformity, in the name of equality and cohesion. As the world adapted to these new norms, it became evident that technological progress wasn't just shaping communication, it was redefining power dynamics and cultural identity on a global scale. Chapter 7: FrontLINE Change. At just 20 years old, Donovan left his family home in Dundee, Quebec, which is a small town straddling the U.S.-Canada border, for Alberta and his new life. His family had struggled financially for the past decade, ever since the United States doubled down on its protectionist and isolationist policies. The U.S. president at the time made his stance very clear. Countries must take care of themselves. Do not ask, and especially do not expect, the American people to keep giving out subsidies to prop you up. If countries can't sustain themselves, maybe they aren't real countries, or even worth saving. So why Alberta? Donovan's family had lived in southern Quebec for over 200 years, proud of their roots. But Donovan was young, unburdened, and searching for a better life. Alberta had ignited a domino effect others would soon follow. In a historic referendum, Alberta seceded from Canada, forming the Republic of Alberta, entering into economic unions with both the U.S. and Canada. Boasting abundant natural resources and thriving energy sector, Alberta no longer wished to prop up other struggling provinces. Instead, it kept its surplus to nourish those within its borders. For Donovan, the decision was clear. He envisioned a future where his family could thrive. While controversial, this shift marked Canada's greatest existential crisis. Quebec, long the center of sovereignty debates, had never seceded. Yet Alberta had taken decisive action. Political discourse had grown cheap. Empty rhetoric had lost its value. Only real actions, and no matter how drastic they were, had become what people respected. And so, the Alberta Accession Act, AAA, of 2035 marked the beginning of the United States Empire, or the United States of Earth, and its rise to global dominance. The first brick had been laid, that first stone had been cast. From 2025 to 2035, cries of "that's not a real country" echoed around the world, aimed at places like Ukraine, Canada, Taiwan, Greenland, and others. What began as controversial annexation rhetoric evolved into a global trend of state realignments. Donovan quickly found himself handsomely paid as a recruit in the newly formed Alberta National Guard. Every state now understood the necessity of a military. The U.S. no longer acted as the world's policeman without compensation. Economic partnerships became the new currency, leading to strategic annexation unions. Donovan lived by a simple code. Family comes first. My family. Though he didn't yet have a wife or children, he was determined to build a future for them. He refused to walk the poverty line like his family had. And by 2037, just 2 years later, he would be preparing for marriage and welcoming his first son, Robert. His vision of a better life was already becoming reality. Just 100 kilometers away from Dundee, in the town of Chateauguay, 2 baby girls are born on July 1st, 2025, at the Anna Laberge Hospital. In the maternity ward, a conversation sparked between a couple cradling their newborn daughter and a single mother who holds her own baby girl. "I'm sure our daughters will change the world one day," the father said warmly. The single mother, who is Florence, smiles and nods. "She sure will. She'll make this world and mine a better place." Driving 30 kilometers back to Ormstown, Florence brought home her daughter, Iris Charlotte Grant. From the moment Florence found out she was pregnant, she turned her life around. Once a carefree party girl, she made an unshakable decision. She would be the rock her child needed moving forward. She quit her restaurant job and joined a nonprofit organization that supports battered women. Experience didn't matter to them, as nonprofits rarely had many applicants, and they hired her on the spot. She embraced her community work, offering a helping hand whenever she could. She would help so many women persevere through difficult situations, and unfortunately, sometimes that story wouldn't end the way she would have hoped. As abortion rights and women's freedoms began to take a back seat to the rising tide of conservative politics in several American states, a quiet wave of cross-border cases had emerged. Some American women made their way north, seeking help in small Quebec communities like Florence's. It wasn't easy. Bearing witness to their pain often reopened old wounds. At times, to cope, Florence would steal a few swigs from a bottle she kept tucked away, a private vice she had kept hidden even from those closest to her. But no matter how heavy the weight, she pressed on because the work mattered and Iris was watching. Her mantra became simple and unwavering: do what's right, no matter how hard that is. Economic hardships tightened their grip on the small communities, and once stable towns like Ormstown began to feel the weight of failing industries, rising crime, and deepening social struggles. Florence saw it at all firsthand: families crushed by economic warfare waged at the highest levels. She refused to let Iris suffer the same fate. Yet there were whispers swirling around about Iris's birth. There was no father in the picture, no mention of his identity. When asked, Florence would brush it off. Florence has a baby girl, and this girl is a blessing. The rest is nobody's business. Still, the town gossiped something had happened to Florence, something she wouldn't speak of. It remained a family secret for years. On Iris's 5th birthday, Florence confided in a friend at the local pub. Hurt people end up hurting people. But I will break that cycle. Iris will never pay for the sins of her father or mine. Determined, Florence vowed to raise a strong, independent daughter. Iris would fear no one. She enrolled her in martial arts, both for fitness and self-defense. Some of Florence's words hinted at a painful past. No man will ever hold you down or make you succumb to their will without your consent. It was a heavy statement for a young girl to hear, but it shaped her in ways no one yet understood. By 2035, global conflicts had not yet erupted into full-scale wars, but the world was shifting. Dinner table debates increasingly revolved around economic warfare, nations clashing over ideology with growing volatility. The question was no longer if military conflicts would break out, but when. We go back to Chapter 8, lines in the sand, stone, and water. Lines all over the map. We are back at the high school debate. Melrose takes a sip of water and starts on point number 2. Let's talk about today, right here, right now. We live on a shrinking planet, one that's created a superpowered lens where everyone can easily see into each other's backyard. And the U.S.E., that backyard is the envy of the neighborhood. People from all over the world want to live there, to be part of the best backyard on the planet. They and we see the difference. How we live here, struggling, and just only a few kilometers away, others are living better. It's only natural that many, even some of you, if you're willing to admit it, you do want the same thing. You want the same backyard, don't you? There's no shame in admitting that. It's human nature to want to have the best you can. It's not envy when you know it's possible to actually materialize if we decided to choose it. Mass immigration on a global scale, like nothing we've ever seen in human history, is real. And it's only grown year after year, decade after decade. People move like goods now. They free flow across borders in search of better, just like products do for the betterment of the economy. But here's the problem. A backyard only has so much space. You can fill it with what you need, but you can't invite everyone to the party and expect them all to stay forever. But the U.S.E., they're inviting us. They want us to join. Sure, they don't have enough room there, but this land, it could be next. Think about it. Yes, we'd give up some of our past, but isn't our future more important than what was? History is for those who have lived. The future is for those who are young, like us. People are quicker and more complex. It's kind of like the Wild West again. Countries throw up walls and people die trying to cross borders, and human trafficking networks have grown into dangerous underworlds of exploitation. It's always been like this, and it will continue. People want to go where it's better. That's the foundation of hope. But to keep order, a true system has to be in place. It's only fair. Those who contribute should be welcome. Those who only take shouldn't. It's harsh, it's hard, but it's life. Despair is a dangerous fuel, but wanting a better quality of life? That's the cement of every strong society around the world. If the U.S.E. doesn't act, it'll be chaos everywhere. So today, if you want to be part of the U.S.E., you become a member state and live by the same values. But don't we already share those same values? Are we really that different? Are we really that different? Come on. The only real difference is they're more upfront about their rules. Play by them or don't play at all. Aren't you tired of sitting on the bench and watching them succeed? Let us get in the game. We'll flourish. Or we stay out and we keep struggling. That's why in 2075 it's an obvious improvement to live inside the U.S.E doctrine. That's why we should join them. Suddenly, a young woman stands and screams towards the stage. Who do you think you're fooling? Join them in 2075? You think the world is better than it was 50 years ago? Ask those who aren't alive to see it today, the ones who had to pay with their lives. Lucky for them, I guess they don't have to sit through this mockery of a debate. And right in my own school. That is treason. Treasonous treason. Two security guards grab the hollering student by her arms. She resists, fighting them off and refusing to calm down. Bzzz. One of them stuns her with a handheld neutralizer, dragging her out of the auditorium. A few gasps and shouts rise from the crowd. A high schooler just got stunned. Welcome to 2075. Life isn't what it was like in 2025, not even here in Canada. And yes, technology is so advanced that she'll just be momentarily stunned with no lasting effects, but it's still a far cry of what would have happened to her during a debate that would have taken place in 2025 instead. Miss Isabel speaks up, trying to calm the room. We apologize. That was completely unacceptable and completely avoidable. We truly apologize. Inside her, however, she's livid. She can't believe that they used a stun gun on a student. She's always opposed to the school's new security measures, but right now she knows she has to be bigger than her beliefs. She redirects the energy in the room, slowly calming the crowd before things spiral out of control. She knows someone has to help the situation here, and that person is her. We knew today might be emotional for some of the student body, she continues, but let's please continue. Please, Miss Knight. Thank you, Miss Isabel. That's the perfect segue to point number 3, defense and security. Melrose steadies her voice. Now, have we arrived at a place where people feel they can say whatever they want, however they want, whenever they want, no matter the space or context? It's impolite, it's rude, it's unsettling, and it can be very dangerous. Becky, the student who just shouted, that's someone I know. Her family has lived through trauma. I understand her pain, I do. But my family has known trauma too. We all have, and that doesn't give anyone the right to break the codes of law, decency, or what's that we accept as a moral code between all of us. That kind of behavior makes everyone feel unsafe, and it keeps us on edge. It creates fear, and fear spreads. A hurt person can hurt others. That's why stability and security must be part of how we treat each other. Today, the U.S.E is one of the safest places on earth. Our home here is a splintered Canada. Not so safe. Was Ormstown, Quebec safe in 2025? Sure. Probably more than it is today. But we can change that by joining them. Back then, people lived in a bubble. The rest of the world was changing so fast around us, and it was only a matter of time before that instability hit us in our home. That would never have happened in the valley, is what the older generations said over and over. But violence, it did come. That's why we're here right now. Yes, there are still no-go zones on our planet, but one day when shared values take root, even those places will be safe. Humans have always waged war, and if you believe in some utopian fantasy that war will just disappear, you're not just dreaming, you're being irresponsible. Especially if you're in a position of power. You can't bury your head in the sand and hope things simply fix themselves magically. They won't. History has proved that. If we believe in our way, then we need to protect it. We must be part of the world's largest and most skilled army as a deterrent to defend what we have, because otherwise, those who oppose our values will always be a threat. It is time to join the U.S.E. Chapter 9, The First Line of Attack. A national news broadcast, July 4th, 2045. This is the anchor. Good evening, viewers. July 4th, 2045, a day that will be remembered as a historic turning point, not just for our country, but for the entire world. The United States of America has officially been renamed the U.S.E., the United States of Earth. A new constitution, a new name, and a new global order. Tonight, we bring you live coverage from 4 corners of the globe to explore how this seismic shift is being felt and what lies ahead for the U.S.E. in the coming days, months, and years, and possibly decades to come. We begin in Washington, where Mark Bachtin is covering the historic moment from the U.S. Capitol. Mark? We cut to Mark Bachtin in Washington, D.C. A reporter stands in front of the White House as a new flag is raised and crowds cheer, waving the U.S.E. emblem. Mark Bachtin. The United States of America is no more. Welcome to the United States of Earth. A name change was inevitable, especially with the inclusion of new states like the Republic of Alberta, Panama, the newly named New Greenland, and surprisingly, Sweden. Alberta was the first to push for this union. Panama and Greenland had a more turbulent relationship with the former U.S., but economic incentives tipped the scale, and in the case of Greenland, now officially New Greenland, each of the country's 59,000 citizens was offered 500,000 to join the U.S.E. That kind of life-changing money made the referendum a no-brainer for many. Some call it a sellout, others see it as survival. The personal economic uplift outweighed the legacy of national identity. There was a time when nations declared, "We are not for sale." But in today's world, every citizen has a price, especially when the promise is prosperity. Sweden's story is different. The emergence of FURA, the Federation of United Republics and Allies, which comprises Russia, Belarus, Syria, Iran, West Ukraine, and Romania, with Venezuela and Sudan eyeing membership, likely accelerated Sweden's pivot. Analysts believe this has forced the U.S.'s hand to expand quickly. Annexation by diplomacy before confrontation becomes inevitable. The former U.S.'s isolationist stance has transformed into something new. If you can't beat us, join us. And this may just be the beginning. Sources say quiet discussions have already started with Ghana, South Africa, and Australia. Where do we go from here? Only time will tell. For now, we head to Calgary, Alberta. U.S.E., the first official member of the U.S.E., Sienna Demos, is on the ground. We cut to Sienna Demos, Calgary, Alberta, at an arena at a rally. The arena is bursting with U.S.E. flags, Alberta banners, and cheering citizens. Sienna Demos. Thank you, Mark. Today, Alberta officially transitions from economic partner to full member of the United States of Earth. The economic union, which began in 2035, has evolved into a unified governance model. Joining me is the Corporal Sergeant Donovan Knight of the former Alberta Army, now part of the U.S.E. military. He was a vocal proponent of Alberta's push to join. Sergeant Knight, can you share your thoughts with us tonight? Mr. Knight begins. This is a new beginning. I moved here a decade ago to build a better life, and I did. I have 2 sons, an incredible wife, and a meaningful job, and a community that lifts each other up. To honor this moment, I even changed my last name to Knight, a name that better reflects the values, land, and people I now call family. Change is good. In fact, it's necessary. Growth demands it. To anyone unsure of what to do next, I say this. Push your leaders to offer something better than what the U.S.E. has brought us. If they can't, maybe this path is a better choice. Long live my family, long live Alberta, and long live the United States of Earth. Roberta Sienna Demos has to project her voice in order to be heard over all the hoopla. A powerful statement and a sentiment echoed by many here tonight. The cheers from this arena can be heard all the way to the Rockies. We cut back to the anchor at the news desk. The anchor says, while the West celebrates with cheers and fireworks, the East is bracing for uncertainty. We now head to Ormstown, Quebec, just 30 minutes from the U.S.E. border and 40 minutes south of Montreal. Gordon Barney is standing by in the hometown where Corporal Knight grew up, where it is a polar opposite of a party atmosphere. Gordon? We cut to Gordon Barney in a dimly lit pub in Ormstown, Quebec. Thanks. Tonight in this small town pub, as many across Canada, people watch in stunned silence. Some cry, some argue, some ponder what was this all means for our future. One thing is clear. Canada, the once new, feels like it's slipping away. I'm joined by Florence Grant, a single mother and community advocate, here to gauge local sentiment. Florence, how are you processing today's announcement? Florence begins. I'm heartbroken. Canada was a mosaic of cultures coexisting for nearly 2 centuries, and now that harmony feels broken. I'm especially concerned by the terms the U.S.E. imposes, like one state entry, underrepresentation in electoral votes for a decade. That doesn't sound like equality. It sounds like control when you join. They say join us, but play by our rules. It's bullying disguised as unity. The bigger kid takes your lunch, offers you a bite back, and expects you to say thank you. That's not diplomacy, that is dominance. Gordon, continues. The U.S.E. argues that gradual integration is necessary to align one's values with other countries. Florence snaps back sharply. Of course they do. They've got a story to sell, but beneath the PR spin is a system engineered for control, not collaboration. Florence returns to her drink, visibly shaken. We go back to the news desk, and the anchor begins. Tension is high across many regions, but in some parts of the world, the stakes are even greater. We now go live to the Sweden-Finland border, where Tasha Rikanawa is covering this crisis. We see Tasha Rikanawa at the Sweden-Finland border, armed convoy in the background. Miss Rikanawa. Thank you. Behind me, armored vehicles patrol roads where just weeks ago families picnicked. Now thousands are fleeing Finland amid growing fears of war. The combination of shifting Arctic sea routes and Sweden's controversial decision to join the U.S.E. has made this region a pressure cooker. Neo-Greenland's recent membership, just 2,000 kilometers from Sweden, was already a red flag. Add to that the recent terrorist attacks in Stockholm, Uppsala, and Lund, and Sweden's razor-thin vote to join the U.S.E. starts to make sense. But here on the ground, the cost is human. People aren't running by choice. They're running for their lives. Not since World War II has this border seen such uncertainty. Finland's long-standing neutrality is now viewed as vulnerability. In today's world, not picking a side might be the most dangerous choice of all. And looming behind it all, the risk of global war. Fura and the U.S.E. are playing chess. The people, they are the pawns. This isn't just a new Cold War, it's the new kind of war entirely. War now stands for the World Annexation Roadmap. Alliances aren't strategic anymore, they're essential for survival. No ocean is vast enough to insulate anyone now. Power spreads like wildfire, and families are being moved across continents like pieces on a board. China, India, Nigeria, the world's largest populations haven't made their moves yet, but they will. And when they do, the real endgame begins. Back to you. Thanks, everyone. We hope you're enjoying our book.